Hi everyone! For my Paseo Plunge, I went to the Casa del Rey Moro African Museum. This museum is located down in Old Town in a very small building, literally just off the corner of Main Old Town where all the restaurants are. The museum is run by Chuck Ambers. He is now an elderly gentleman who was a school teacher in the Chula Vista area for a long time and decided to open this museum about 20 years ago with the goal of really showing everyone the contributions Africans have made throughout history. And I do mean throughout all of history. His museum is it goes from ancient history all the way to current today. This video is mostly going to be me talking and showing you two small videos within here and then a bunch of photos. I do apologize for that. To be honest, the museum is very small, and I was talking with Chuck Ambers most of the time, so I didn't really have the opportunity to just take my camera and talk to you guys while I was at the museum. This museum can easily be used for all grade levels and all students. However, with that being said, I might gear it towards a middle or high school crowd. I think they would definitely appreciate some of the artifacts that are available, and I think that they can really identify culturally with the work he has available. The museum is split into three sections. So the first section is an ancient civilization. The second one is kind of a world and Latin American viewpoint for Africans. And there's a final room that's dedicated just to America and African American history. So with these three rooms, obviously you can hit pretty much any standard or grade level between middle and high school pretty easily. As for the big ideas and units, you could honestly take this museum and relate it to, I would argue, any unit that you're working on, whether it's slavery, expansion, technological advancements, literally anything, and Chuck has an answer for you and how Africans have played a role. I will say he is quite literally a walking encyclopedia for all things African history, advancement, literally anything. As for essential questions, I think you could go the same way. You could, if you were focusing on early civilizations, you could ask maybe, how did Africans' religion, arts, technology shape these civilizations and contribute to ones in the future? You could argue an essential question of how did African Americans contribute to westward expansion and their role with the Buffalo Soldiers? Ultimately, I think this museum would be a great place to incorporate an inquiry-based approach. I think it would be great to kind of let students roam free inside the museum, find something that speaks to them, whether it's a piece of writing, a sculpture, a picture, a book, anything they find that calls to them. And have them work on an inquiry-based project based off what they find, the history, implications, etc. I think this would maybe be how you could incorporate technology into the museum, having kids kind of photograph, find something that they enjoy here, and using technological aspects to maybe present their inquiry-based project and really show what they've learned. I do think that this museum would be great for English language learners. The amount of just raw artifacts, images, is almost overwhelming at times, but I think would be very beneficial for the visual aspect of ELs. And realistically, you don't have to necessarily be able to read a ton at this museum to kind of get a gist of the role African Americans have played and kind of just be surrounded by their importance. As far as incorporating 21st century skills in the museum, I think one thing that Chuck has done a good job with in his museum is showing American history up until today. He does a good job of showing African American scientists from throughout the Cold War and earlier, as well as mathematicians, anything that's really advanced society to where we are today. There's an African American behind it that he could tell students about. Ultimately, I do worry about the feasibility of using this museum as a field trip for your class. You could maybe do it for a class of 20 to 30 kids, but like I said, the museum is very small, as you can see from some of these photos. It might be possible to bring kids in shifts. There is a school or like a park nearby that you guys could maybe rotate in and out of, but it would be a little bit trickier. I know Chuck Ambers mentioned that he does kind of like role reenactments where he will come to your school or your classroom and he will dress up and really be like a Buffalo soldier or Frederick Douglass or anything like that and teach the kids firsthand there. With that being said, though, I do think this museum is extremely important, especially for those culturally diverse and those who are not students, to really realize the role Africans have played throughout the world and so much of it that's been overlooked. I think it would be worth it to try to make this museum a possibility for kids to bring on a field trip, or maybe make it an extra credit assignment where they have to go there on their own. But it's definitely worth, I think, every teacher's time to go check it out and really see how far we can go in some of these subjects we're teaching, and to make sure the kids get the chance to see this awesome museum as well.